Hello, my name is Christie Lowrance. I'm the Literary Arts Coordinator at the Sandwich Arts Alliance. And today we're going to be talking about a special, unique form of literature, poetry. Poetry has played a valuable role in the lives of people throughout ages. And just think about the simple poem that Clement Moore wrote, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." He wrote this to entertain his children, but it has lasted through time, and today we're still reading his poem. He would have certainly had no idea. Poetry is something that people often turn to in a time of loss and difficulty. We see this in our own times. We're living in such a difficult time with the pandemic. And the years ahead will show the type of poems that were created in response to this. In April, the Sandwich Arts Alliance and the literary group undertook a special project that was related to these difficult times. We made an unusual offer. We said, you make a donation to the Sandwich Food Pantry and we will write you a poem. But you have to specify what the purpose of that poem is. What role do you want it to play? Why do you want this poem? And the poems began, the requests came in and the poems began to come in, and they were wonderful. They were magnificent. They were different. They were beautiful. And we thought we have to share this. So we put together a collection of these poems into a book called Pebbles in the Stream, which is now for sale at the Sandwich Arts Alliance. But the purpose of these poems, it's evident when you look over them that each one has a different purpose and each one has a different story. So the program today in this series is going to be to share with you what is the purpose of a poem. And we're going to be starting off with Dean Coe and Kathy Aubin.
My name is Kathy Aubin, and I was privileged to be able to commission a poem that Christie was describing through the project that the Sandwich Arts Alliance commissioned in April. And just to give you some context as to what was going on at the time, of course, mid-March, all of us were closed down with the pandemic. April was National Poetry Month, and the literary group with the Sandwich Arts Alliance is not to be stopped in any mission that they happen to be on to keep going. So they came up with this wonderful program to, if you wanted to commission a poem, you would make a donation to the Sandwich Food Pantry, tell just a little bit about the person you wanted to commission the poem for, and your poem would be delivered by email to whoever you wish to receive the poem. And what was happening at the time is our grandson, Tyler, was turning 10 in mid-April. He is the youngest of our grandchildren. So he was becoming a double digit, and he is the last grandchild that will ever become a double digit for the Aubins. So we were thinking about what we could do. We could not visit, we could not join his birthday party. And we were thinking about what we could do. And when I heard about this, I thought, what a wonderful idea. So he was in my mind. Now, as it relates to Tyler, this was interesting. I could only give a few bits of information when I filled out the online form as to a little bit about the recipient. And this is a kid who his whole life, high energy, bouncing off the walls, a crazy little kid, could never get his attention. But when he started to go to school and he started to learn and loved reading, he became a kid that really enjoyed reading all kinds of books. And I found out just prior to this that he was starting to read Robert Frost. So I said in my application to the Arts Alliance, I said 10-year-old grandson who were not able to visit this year, He likes reading, he likes being outdoors, and he loves Robert Frost. So what happened next was I made my donation, and then just a couple of days later, his mom received the email from the Sandwich Arts Alliance with the poem. And I had no idea when I commissioned it that I was going to be able to get Dean Coe, children's author, to write the poem. So the whole experience has been really, really moving for our family. It was a wonderful gift, and I think I'd like to turn it over to Dean to explain what he got when he received the email from the Arts Alliance requesting the poem.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm not a poet, and I've never given a lot of thought to being a poet, which is a little disappointing to my mother, who enjoyed poetry. But she was also a person who would kick us out of the house if the sun was shining and we were reading and we should be outdoors playing. So I got the assignment as you've described, 10 years old, liked Robert Frost. And so I took a stab at it. And I went through a process of thinking, okay, 10 years old, what do I write a 10-year-old? I'm going to be 80 next week. What do I know about a 10-year-old? Do I write about the year he was born? Do I take the 10 years since he was born and write something about each year? And then I thought, well, why not tell him what you were like when you were 10? Maybe that's a better approach. So that's what I did. And apologies in advance for whatever. But my poem is Ode to be 10 Again. Now, one interesting point here is that my first sibling, my first brother was born when I was 8. So I had 8 fantastic years of freedom. And then I had a couple of years of being a big brother, and then before I got to be 10. But anyway, here's my poem. When I was 10, having just been 9, a happy guy, just feeling fine, 5th grade was cool. Nobody was mean. We never heard of COVID-19. We played in the woods. I bet you do too. Life was better than doing the zoo. I never was scared. I never got lost. I liked being alone, reading poems by Frost. Mending wall and all the rest helped me learn, but this was best. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. When I was 10, like you are now, I played the trumpet. Well, anyhow, I wasn't that good. I was just so. I'd much rather be hanging out in the snow. Well, I'm happy for you that you've turned 10 and you have a great year. And remember that when you get feeling down, a little bit shaken, pick up Frost and the road not taken.
Bravo. Wonderful, wonderful, just wonderful. So his mom got the email with the poem, and she immediately texted me and said, "This is just so amazing. How did he do this?" And I said, well, you have to learn a little bit about Dean Coe because he is a children's author to start with. The wonderful series of Chesterton that he has written, he knows how to communicate with children. And this poem was really wonderful. So what his mom did, first of all, I was so completely thrilled with it. I received it. And of course, I didn't know who had been assigned to the poem. And when I learned that it was Dean, I felt that this just was, the stars were perfectly aligned for this kid, for a really special gift for his birthday. And his, when he received it, he was very excited. And he asked his mom if he could please have it, if she could print it out and please have it framed so it is in his room, the commissioned personal poetry from Dean Co. Just wonderful.
Kathy, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Dean. Thank you. Awesome.
Hi, Jane.
I wanted to tell you about getting the offer for a poem. I'm Jeannie McLaren, and Christie approached me. I think she mentioned the food pantry, and that always raises my sympathy. So I was happy to participate. And the event coming up in my life that was meaningful was an anniversary with my second husband. So I said, how about a poem for a mature couple approaching 22 years of marriage? And she knew just the one to think about that. It was the beginning of a lot of feelings and introspection when COVID slowed everything down. So not only did I have more time to think and feel and read, and I also had this huge sympathy for people without food all of a sudden, families used to providing for themselves. So there you go. I just presented that to Christie, and she took it to a perfect author. That's all.
Well, thank you. And when Christie called, she explained the parameters of the program and made me aware of the request and what went into it. And I said, yes, I would. And I had an opportunity to, I need to think about things a little bit before I put them together and write something down. So I read her synopsis and how she filled your request. And to me, I had to, I thought about it. And the important thing for me is to think about it first and to put together an image. Huh? And once that's the difficult part, that takes me time. So I had to think about what she had sent me. And then once I have the image, probably the most difficult part is in me and for me in writing poetry is to get the first line right. And I thought about that for quite a while. And that brings to mind to me the work of Emily Dickinson, because she was one of my favorite poets, and most of her work, we remember the first line, how it drives the poem. Like these are the days when birds come back, a bird or two, a very few, I'm nobody, who are you? She has so many poems, and it was important for me to get that first line right, because I always felt that first line drives the poem, okay? And so the poem begins, a place and time in you. When I look back and see you when, it seems so long ago, that time had just gently eased us to this commonplace. It had not to do with choice, but simply saying yes to this unknown journey we take through time, It seems so long ago. And sometimes stopping along the way to breathe and feel the day, the fullness of being, the things that come to some along the way. It would not have been the same had I been all alone without you on this travel. It seems so long ago. It seems so long ago.
Bob, can I speak now?
Sure.
I just love your words. And you know, this was our 22nd anniversary.
That's great.
Not the most notable of anniversaries, but a time when reflection sets in and we need a little new energy in our relationship. We're quite used to each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I was taken aback by two things in a very positive way. You thought first of the beginning, the sweetness. It wasn't a choice. It was just a yes, let's go do this.
Yes.
You're so right. And that was perfect to emphasize the yes and not the choice. You're so right about that. And my very favorite line that I think about when I'm driving in the car even, it brings me close to a feeling I could not capture without your words. And that's, it would not have been the same had I been all alone. That is as simple as it could be. And it captures everything, because the road I took with my second husband was completely different from anything I could have done earlier in my life or alone. I was actually going to adopt a Chinese daughter as a single woman when I met my future husband. And I told him, I'll be having a child. Are you ready for that again? Yours are 12 and 10. And he thought about it and he showed up with a dozen roses. And that was his yes to me. How do you like that? So on we went. That was cemented. And it certainly would not have been the same if I were a single mother and if I were not able to give my little Chinese girl the two beautiful siblings she has from Jonathan, my husband. She has a whole family now. And far better that I waited 3 years with Jonathan. We've actually been together 25 years. And we just waited for matters to take care of themselves through China before we got married. So that explains it. And it couldn't be more perfect for old timers like us who are very settled with each other. He's my best friend. And this is not sentimental about marriage or anniversaries. It says it like it is when it goes well. And thank you, Bob.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Jean. And for me also, you know, the first line and that line, it would have not been the same as had I been all alone. To me, that was succinctly proper right at that time. And it really kind of brought things together for me as well. So as a rule, I don't write poetry anymore. I started my writing with poetry 60 years ago, and you get away from it. And because Christie asked, I said, yes, I would. Okay. And I get back to it, and I'm going to try not to get away from it now. I spend too much time thinking about characters and theme along a prose level. But poetry was my one love, and I had some very good instructors in school. And I just like getting back to it. And this was a special piece for me. And I'm so glad that it fit well into both our lives, you know.
May I ask you, Bob, you said that you wait until you form an image. And tell me more about the image you formed from this
I had
request.
to think about, I had to think about things from the composition of the information that your request was made from. So I took that in, I thought about it, and I got an image of whether it's two people who are not young lovers of 22, but two people walking down maybe a worn a path in the woods, and holding hands, and maybe there's more shadows and because of the trees, and it's the end of the day, and so I got an image, okay, and from that image, I have to try to find that first sentence to get started, and that kind of drives it. So I have a little plan that I use when I try to write a piece.
Nice, thank you.
It doesn't always work though, Jean. It worked for this poem.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is one of 3 segments of the literary arts taping of the Purpose of a Poem 2020, a series that will continue into the new year. We have given an opportunity for people who consigned a poem in our spring Poem-athon to say what their purpose was, what did they want? And the person who wrote the poem to say what they were looking to achieve in the writing of a poem, and possibly some back and forth between those people. So we've had 12 people who've been involved in these tapings, and we just want to remind everyone that all these poems are in Pebbles in the Stream, which is for sale at the Sandwich Arts Alliance in the center or online, and also at Titcomb's bookstore. The cost is $19.95. We hope you will take an interest in it and buy it. And please look at the literary arts shelves of books. The writers that you have been listening to all have books that are for sale at the Sandwich Arts Alliance. So explore the children's writers and the history writers and the fiction writers, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you very much. All the best.